It's election day in Barnstable. We have details, and plans are in the works for a dog festival on Craigville Beach. Plus, we talk about protecting Barnstable's water supply with DPW Director Dan Santos. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, November 5th, 2013. I'm Sarah Mantle. It is election day today in the town of Barnstable. All 13 town council precincts are holding elections, but only a few are contested. Incumbents running uncontested are Ann Kennedy in Precinct 1, Fred Chirigotis in Precinct 4, Jessica Rapp-Grassetti in Precinct 7, Deborah Dagwan in Precinct 8, and Jen Cullum in Precinct 13. Newcomers running unopposed are Paul Hebert in Precinct 3 and Sarah Cushing in Precinct 10. For today's contested races, Precinct 2 Councilor Thomas Rugo is being challenged by Eric Steinhelber. Precinct 9 Councilor James Tinsley is being challenged by Tim Ferreira. Precinct 11 Councilor June Daly is being challenged by Phil Wallace. And Precinct 12 Councilor John Norman is being challenged by Don Lind. In Precinct 5, Antonia Belanca and James Crocker are vying for the seat. And Precinct 6 voters will choose between Will Crocker and Deb Converse. Polls are open till 8 p.m. Turnout so far has been low. According to our most recent numbers, Precinct 6 has the highest turnout, that's at 14.2%. The lowest turnout is in Precinct 10 at 2.7%. Town Council meets this week. Public hearings on the fiscal 14 tax levy will be held. This includes the tax factor, residential exemption, and small commercial exemption. Council also could vote on a 2-year contract extension for Town Manager Tom Lynch and accept a $9,000 grant from the Office of Public Safety and Security. And according to Police Chief Paul McDonald, that nearly $10,000 grant would be used to combat underage drinking.
This is a grant that we use primarily in the summertime, and last year we used it almost exclusively for looking at different establishments that were adults were procuring alcohol for the minors. We made several arrests, and that was rather successful last year. And then towards the end of the summer, we used some of the money. We had a sting operation going on. We have approximately 138 licensed establishments within the towns, and we did the reverse thing. We sent an underage individual into them in an attempt to purchase alcohol, and we're happy to let everyone know that everyone passed. He was not served alcohol at any of them. So that was a very successful grant, and we plan on doing the same tactics probably sometime next year starting in May.
Town Council meets Thursday night at 7 in the Town Hall hearing room. Barnstable police arrested 34-year-old Scott Jean of Marston's Mills Friday. The arrest came after a month-long investigation into an oxycodone distribution investigation.
This was a major case for us that's been ongoing for at least a month and a half. We were tailing the suspect back and forth to Everett on several different occasions, picking up large quantity of oxycontin. This particular day, we went up there with 2 teams of officers. Once the purchase was made up in Everett, a group of our officers and state police took down the source up in Everett. They then followed our bad guy back into Barnstable. Of course, once he got on 149, we had 4 cruisers out there. We had him boxed in. He then panicked for whatever reason. He then slammed several of the cruisers and attempted to get away, almost striking 2 officers. He then took off at a high rate of speed. The officers then subsequently they located him again on Old Stage Road. This time, with the motor vehicle stop, he appeared to be complying. He pulled over. He stopped. The officer were able to get out of the cruisers, approach the car. And when he did, he accelerated again. This time, there were 2 officers standing directly in front of him. And one officer had to shoot him to protect the other 2 officers. He was shot in the arm.
McDonald says Scott Jean has not yet been charged due to medical treatment. Jean is expected to make a full recovery and faces multiple charges in connection with that incident. Protecting water quality is important not only to residents but also town officials. Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin talked with DPW Director Dan Santos about the issue earlier today. We share a portion of that interview with you now.
We're comparing kind of our system to a system, say, off Cape that has reservoirs. I mean, there's certainly some unique challenges that come into play when all of our water comes from that groundwater source.
Well, right. In the primary one, it's on a surface water source or a reservoir. They definitely have to treat that water. That's mandatory. So avoiding that is a significant part of this. But some of the ways we do this and protect our resource or enhance them is we have zoning, and we have zoning overlay districts in the town for wellhead protection. So there are certain parts of the town that are close to drinking water wells that you can't do certain things, and you can't have quantities of hazardous waste or hazardous materials greater than just small, household use quantities, a gallon or a pint of something. You can't have industry that has large quantities of things that if they got into the groundwater would contaminate our water source.
Right, so you couldn't have, say, like an auto repair shop or kind of a painting facility, those type of things, where there is that kind of use of hazardous materials.
Right, or it's it's very tightly controlled, or there's limits on the type of things. This comes to mind, and why I'm interested in talking about this is currently NSTAR. And you may have heard they have all the issue with spraying under the power lines, and Cape Wide, that's been an issue. In the last couple of years, they've had a moratorium on spraying for that very reason, because there is such outcry about putting chemicals, herbicides, on the ground or on the plants in the areas of our water sources.
Exactly.
So what we're in the middle of right now is NSTAR is proposing to modify a substation they have off Mary Dunn Road, north of the airport. Well, it turns out that where that substation is located, and it's been there since the 1930s, but where that substation is located is in the vicinity of 5 of our water supply wells for the Hyannis Water Department. And so there's 2 uses that are incompatible, really, because as part of their operation, substations have transformers, and the way those transformers work is because they generate so much heat and changing the electricity, they have to have an oil in them. It's called the dielectric fluid, but it's basically an oil which keeps the thing cool. Well, each one of these transformers has 10,000 gallons of oil in them. We're concerned about a gallon or 2 of material getting into the groundwater because it doesn't take much contaminant to ruin a lot of groundwater. So currently there's 2 transformers there at 10,000 gallons each, and they want to add a third. So they can have 30,000 gallons of this transformer oil. So one of the things that NSTAR can do is they can petition to the Department of Public Utilities to be exempt from local zoning. In other words, they don't have to comply with the very things that we're trying to do to protect groundwater. So the town attorney's office and myself and the water director and Joanne Buntage from Growth Management spent 2 days last week at a hearing up at the Department of Public Utilities to try to convince them that we understand your exemption zoning, but we need protection for our resource.
Right. Because
just as important as providing electricity is, you can live without electricity. You really can't live without water. So, we wanted to make sure that they heard that. So, NSTAR is being cooperative, and what they're proposing in this case is to put secondary containment. In other words, they're going to put these transformers in a big bathtub so that if they do leak, or if there's some kind of catastrophic failure and all the oil flows out of one of these or more than one of these, it gets contained and won't reach the groundwater.
A local nonprofit wants to raise money for animal rescue programs with a beach party. The Cold Noses Foundation went before the Recreation Commission to present plans for a dog beach party that would be held in the Craigville Beach parking lot next May. Organizer Talia Hasiotis says the event would give local nonprofits more exposure.
The purpose is to raise awareness of the importance of spay, neuter, responsible pet care, and compassionate pet care. I think it's a unique event for this area, and it also helps us, as well as all local organizations, really network, which is a very big deal in the animal.
The Recreation Commission voted to support the dog beach party by writing a letter to the licensing authority. Again, one last reminder, today is Election Day. Polls are open until 8 p.m. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.